Airline CEO kicks black family off private jet, then realizes the plane belongs to them. Have you ever witnessed a moment so shocking that it makes your heart race and your jaw drop at the same time? Picture this. A powerful airline CEO confidently strides onto a luxurious private jet, his expensive shoes echoing against the polished floors. He spots a black family quietly settling into plush leather seats. Without warning, he orders them off, thinking they don't belong there. The tension is thick. The insult is unimaginable, but little does he know he's just sealed his own fate because that very jet he's so fiercely guarding isn't his, it belongs to them. And karma is just warming up. Before we dive into this incredible story, if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. If you're excited to hear what happens next, drop a 1 in the comments. If not, press 0. Your feedback inspires me to bring more uplifting and meaningful stories. It was a crisp afternoon at Teterboro Airport in New Jersey, buzzing with the usual hum of private planes landing and taking off, while the roar of distant commercial flights from nearby Newark Liberty echoed in the background. The runway glistened under the fading sunlight, reflecting the sleek silhouettes of private jets. Among them sat a gleaming Gulfstream G650, a marvel of both luxury and technology. Inside the VIP terminal, a well-dressed black family of 4, Miles Harrington, his wife Celeste, their teenage son Darren, and young daughter Avery, made their way to the reception desk to confirm their flight details. The Harringtons were a quietly wealthy family, their fortune earned through Miles's tech innovations and Celeste's successful philanthropic ventures. Miles, tall and regal in a tailored navy suit, walked with his wife Celeste, wearing a cream-colored dress with gold jewelry. Their children followed close behind, Darren, 17, in a casual blazer, and Avery, 12, dressed in a playful yet elegant outfit. The family moved through the terminal, excitement and curiosity in their steps. As they neared the desk, Darren noticed an older man in a sharply tailored gray suit storming past them, looking hurried. The name tag on his suit read William Roth, CEO of Atlas Sky, a major airline known for its rapid expansion. Though he was famous in the industry, Roth had a reputation for being brash, dismissive, and prejudiced, especially when it came to who deserved luxury. Darren recognized him from a recent Forbes cover. Roth was reportedly at Teterboro to discuss a possible expansion of Atlas Sky's private charter services, though no one expected him to cross paths with the Harringtons that day. As the family reached the desk, the agent greeted them politely, double-checking their flight details. Everything was set. The agent smiled warmly. "Welcome back, Mr. Harrington. Captain Novak and the flight crew are expecting you on board." The family moved through the security checkpoint, exchanging respectful nods with familiar faces. But as they crossed the tarmac, Roth appeared again, pacing near a row of aircraft. His eyes locked onto the Harringtons as they approached the Gulfstream. He stepped forward, his face hardening, and marched over to them. Scanning the jet, he sneered, then fixed his intense gaze on Miles. "Excuse me," Roth began, his voice dripping with condescension. "I think you're a bit lost. That plane belongs to an esteemed client. You might want to check with the terminal if you're booking a charter or some airline miles for your next flight." Miles paused, confusion flickering across his face. "I'm sorry, do I know you?" he asked politely. Roth, unbothered by the polite response, puffed out his chest. "I'm William Roth," he said, as though he were announcing royalty. "And this jet is about to be used for a crucial negotiation. It's not available for tours." Celeste stepped forward, her voice calm and steady. "Mr. Roth, we're not here for a tour. We're here because—" Before she could finish, Roth cut her off, raising a hand dismissively. "Do you need me to escort you back to the main building?" His tone dripped with arrogance. "We have plenty of staff who can direct you to the commercial flights." Darren's eyes widened in alarm at Roth's tone. Avery, clutching her mother's hand, could feel the tension in the air. Miles squared his shoulders. They had encountered subtle prejudice before, but never so openly. "That won't be necessary," he said calmly. "We have every right to be here." Roth's face twisted with frustration. "Look, sir," he snapped. "This is private property. If you don't have the right credentials, I'm going to have to ask you and your family to step away from this aircraft immediately." He snapped his fingers at the security guard. "Please remove them from the premises." A hush fell over the tarmac, and even the ground crew nearby seemed to sense something was off. Darren, furious, stepped forward. "You have no right to talk to my mother like that," he yelled, his voice vibrating with anger. From the cockpit, Captain Novak, a silver-haired pilot who had served the Harringtons loyally for years, watched in stunned silence. He knew it was time to act. He descended the steps of the plane in his sharp pilot uniform and approached the group. "Excuse me, Mr. Roth," Captain Novak said evenly. "These are my employers, the Harrington family. This jet is theirs. You've made a very serious mistake." A flicker of realization crossed Roth's face, but he wasn't ready to back down just yet. "What do you mean, their jet?" he demanded, voice tight with disbelief. Captain Novak gave a curt nod. "Mr. and Mrs. Harrington have owned this Gulfstream G650 for the past 6 months. They're here for a final inspection after recent upgrades." Silence fell over the tarmac. The color drained from Roth's face as the truth hit him. Miles folded his arms and waited, his expression calm but expectant. Celeste, lips pressed into a tight line, stared at Roth, her face a mix of anger and determination. Roth cleared his throat, struggling to regain composure. "Well, this is unexpected. I was under the impression that Atlas Sky was leasing it for a potential deal." Miles didn't let him off the hook. "Your employees, or perhaps you personally, were mistaken. Now, if you'll excuse us, we have a flight to catch." Cornered, Roth adjusted his tie, trying to salvage some dignity. "Yes, well, I apologize if there was a misunderstanding." Darren snorted in disbelief. "A misunderstanding," he muttered under his breath. Celeste raised an eyebrow, the sarcasm thick in the air. Roth motioned for his security guards to step back, muttering an empty apology before turning away and walking back toward a nearby hangar, leaving the Harringtons to board their jet. As they climbed the stairs into the Gulfstream, the weight of the moment hung heavy in the air. They hadn't realized how big this confrontation would get, but soon the entire aviation world and social media would learn about the airline CEO who tried to kick the rightful owners off their own plane. And karma, as always, had its own flight plan. Inside the jet, Miles sat down, his heart still pounding with anger. Celeste sat across from him, her face reflecting a mixture of hurt and resolve. Darren, still seething, plopped down by the window. Avery, anxious, busied herself with the new seatbelt buckle. Captain Novak approached with a quiet apology. "Mr. Harrington, I'm so sorry you had to deal with that. I had no idea." Miles raised a hand to stop him. "Not your fault, Captain. You did what you had to do." The pilot nodded, relieved. "We're ready for takeoff whenever you are. The flight plan to Miami is filed. We'll skirt around the storm system heading up the coast." "Thank you, Novak," Celeste said, offering a tired smile. "We appreciate your professionalism." With that, the flight began, but the shadows of the incident lingered in their minds. Celeste couldn't stop thinking about Roth's arrogance, the way he treated them as if their hard-earned success didn't matter because of their skin. After a long silence, Darren finally spoke, his voice tight. "Dad, why didn't you just tell him off right away? Why let him rant at us for so long?" Miles sighed deeply. "Sometimes, son, men like him won't listen until they're forced to. You saw how he cut me off every time. That's how it is with people like him." Avery, glancing nervously at her parents, asked softly, "What happens now?" Celeste smiled gently. "Now, honey, we do what we've always done. We continue as planned. We head to Miami and we finalize that philanthropic partnership with the university." And so the Harringtons soared off into the skies, determined to rise above the prejudice they'd faced, knowing that their journey, like the jet they owned, was theirs to control. He began, his voice steady and confident, though his mind still buzzed with the events of the day. "We're incredibly honored to be here with you tonight, surrounded by so many bright and promising young minds. It's a privilege to support the next generation of scholars and leaders." He glanced at Celeste, who gave him a reassuring smile from her seat. The storm clouds of earlier seemed to dissipate as they focused on what truly mattered, their commitment to helping students who might not otherwise have the opportunity to attend college. As a family, we've been fortunate in many ways, Miles continued, but it's important for us to give back to the communities that have supported us. These scholarships are just one way we can help create a brighter future for all. The crowd responded with applause, and for a brief moment the weight of the day's earlier drama seemed to lift. As the evening unfolded, the Harringtons mingled with students, professors, and donors, their attention on the significance of the event and the impact would have on students' futures. However, even as they tried to keep their focus on the scholarship gala, their phones remained buzzing with notifications. The story of the CEO's humiliating treatment of the Harrington family continued to dominate headlines and social media. It was clear that the incident had struck a nerve, and the conversation was growing louder. Back in the private suite after the event, Celeste took a deep breath. "I think we've handled this as best we could," she said, glancing at Miles. "But this isn't over, is it?" Miles nodded, his brow furrowing slightly. "Number it's not. But we'll face whatever comes next head on. We didn't deserve what happened today, and we won't let it define us." The next morning, as they prepared to leave for the airport and return home, the full fallout of William Roth's actions became clearer. The board of directors at Atlas Skies had reportedly initiated an internal investigation into his behavior, and it seemed inevitable that his position as CEO would be reevaluated. The Harringtons, however, knew that their focus needed to remain on their work, on the lives they could continue to change through their philanthropic efforts, not on the controversy that had momentarily interrupted their path. As they boarded their private jet for the flight back home, Avery turned to her parents, her eyes wide with curiosity. "Do you think Mr. Roth will lose his job?" Darren, always the more pragmatic of the two, gave a shrug. "It doesn't really matter, does it? What matters is that we handled it with dignity. No matter what happens to him, we have to keep moving forward." Celeste gave a small smile. "Exactly. What happened was wrong, but we'll continue doing what we've always done. Working to make the world a better place." As the Gulfstream ascended into the sky, the sun casting golden light over the horizon, the Harrington family sat together, united in their resolve. The turbulence of the day before seemed to fade into the distance, and they knew, in the grand scheme of things, that their work, the scholarships, the positive changes they were bringing to the world, was what would ultimately define them, not one man's prejudice. And as the plane soared toward the future, so did they. As the plane cruised through the clouds, the hum of the engines offering a comforting backdrop, Celeste wrestled with her thoughts. The storm of emotions swirling inside her mirrored the weather outside. She longed for clarity, a sense of peace amidst the chaos. The meeting with Roth was inevitable. It seemed like a formality. He had to apologize, given the mounting pressure from both the public and his board. But Celeste wasn't sure whether his apology would come from a genuine place or if it was just another move in his well-crafted PR game. Could she trust him? That was the question lingering at the edge of her mind. "I don't know if I'm ready to forgive him," Celeste murmured quietly to Miles, who was engrossed in his laptop. He paused, his fingers hovering over the keyboard as he looked up at her, understanding the gravity in her voice. "You don't have to decide now. We'll handle this on our terms, as we always do. If he's sincere, it'll show. But if it's just damage control, we'll see right through it." She nodded, appreciating his calmness, his ability to anchor her when she felt overwhelmed. "I don't want this to define us, Miles. But I also don't want anyone to think we're letting people like him get away with things like this." Miles gently placed his hand over hers. "We won't. You've built everything we have with integrity. That's what matters, and that's what people will remember." For a moment they sat in quiet understanding, the weight of the situation hanging in the air like a dense fog. The plane continued its steady course, and the world outside seemed far removed from the drama unfolding within their lives. As they approached New York, the first glimmers of morning sunlight broke through the horizon, painting the sky with soft hues of orange and pink. Celeste found herself breathing a little easier, the initial storm inside her beginning to settle, if only slightly. They would face whatever came next together, as they always had. But there was still that lingering question. What would Roth say when they met him? A few hours later, back in New York, the reality of the situation hit. The phone call was inevitable, and when it came, it wasn't a surprise. Linda had texted earlier with the details. A meeting had been set at a neutral location, a high-end restaurant in the city. Celeste couldn't help but feel a bit of unease as they prepared for the encounter. Miles had always been the one to lead discussions like this, but Celeste knew this meeting would be a test, not just for Roth, but for them as well. As they sat at the table in the sleek, modern restaurant waiting for Roth to arrive, Celeste couldn't shake the feeling that this moment was a turning point. How would Roth play this? Would he own up to his actions, or would he deflect and try to shift blame? When Roth finally entered, his well-tailored suit did nothing to hide the tension in his posture. He offered a tight smile as he approached the table. "Mr. and Mrs. Harrington," he began, his voice low but deliberate. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with me." Miles gave a curt nod, not offering the warmth he usually did in such situations. "Let's get to it. We don't have all day." Roth swallowed hard, taking a seat opposite them. "I want to start by saying that I deeply regret the incident at the airport. What happened was unacceptable, and I take full responsibility for my actions." Celeste remained silent, watching him carefully. Was this just a rehearsed apology, or was there any real remorse behind it? Miles's expression was guarded, but Celeste could see the edge of tension in his jaw. "I acted impulsively and unfairly," Roth continued. "I made assumptions, and I misjudged you all in a way I deeply regret. I want to make amends, if you'll allow me." Miles leaned forward, eyes locked onto Roth's. "Words are just that, words. What are you prepared to do to prove you're sincere?" Roth hesitated, clearly struggling with the weight of the question. "I know actions speak louder than words. I'm willing to take whatever steps are necessary to right this wrong, whether it's a public apology, a donation to the scholarship fund, or any other measures you believe are appropriate." Celeste's gaze softened slightly. It was a start, but it wasn't enough yet. She wanted to believe him, but her instincts told her to stay cautious. "Actions do speak louder," she agreed. "But this isn't just about making it right between us. This is about a larger issue of respect, accountability, and corporate responsibility. You're the face of Atlas Skies. How do you plan to address this within your company so nothing like this happens again?" Roth nodded slowly, his eyes a little more earnest now. "I'm committed to working with my team to implement diversity and sensitivity training across the company. I want to ensure that no one else ever feels the way you felt because of my actions." It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. Celeste and Miles exchanged a glance. It wasn't the apology they had hoped for, but it seemed to be as close as they were going to get. "We'll take your offer into consideration," Miles said, standing up. "But understand, Mr. Roth, that actions will always speak louder than words. We'll be watching." With that, they stood, shook hands, and walked away. The meeting hadn't offered complete closure, but it had given them what they needed, a sense that Roth was at least facing the consequences of his actions. As they left the restaurant, Celeste couldn't help but feel a little lighter. They'd weathered the storm, together. The kids were engrossed in the movie as the plane began its descent into Tabor. Celeste recalled the humiliating encounter with Roth on the tarmac, but now she was safely aboard the plane with her family. They were greeted warmly by the airport staff, and Linda Chang informed them that Roth had reached out for an in-person apology. After some discussion, they agreed to meet Roth in a neutral private setting in Manhattan. At the upscale lounge, Roth arrived, looking humbled. He apologized for his past behavior, acknowledging his actions were racist and deeply regrettable. The Harringtons listened, accepting his apology, but emphasizing that trust is earned through actions. Linda suggested Roth could assist with diversity initiatives in aviation, which Roth eagerly agreed to. The meeting ended with the Harringtons accepting the apology, but leaving the next steps up to Roth's actions. Outside, Linda informed them that Roth had been removed as CEO of Atlas Skies due to the scandal. The family returned home reflecting on the day and the lessons learned. The following month saw the Harrington Foundation announce a new scholarship program to promote diversity in aviation. The ceremony was filled with hope, and Roth, watching from the sidelines, quietly texted his congratulations. The story ended with a powerful message about redemption, the importance of giving second chances, and the impact of choosing constructive actions over bitterness. The Harringtons turned their experience into an opportunity for change, proving that adversity can lead to progress.